What up, everybody? Something really cool happened. I had the opportunity to interview one of my old college roommates and college teammates. We went to school together at Montana State University Northern. And it's funny, every time I tell people that I lived in Montana for a year, they always ask, like, what made you go to Montana? Like, why did you choose Montana? I actually got a good friend who is from Great Falls, and Great Falls is probably about an hour, maybe 2 hours away from Havre, Montana, where I went to school. And I remember her asking me, like, what did you do? Like, why? Like, out of all the schools you can go to, why did you choose Havre, Montana, Montana State University Northern? And I had a conversation with my friend's name is Jay. We'll drop that episode pretty soon. But I had the conversation with him, and it really had me reflect on why did I pick Montana? And when you hear why I picked it, it's gonna be really shocking and surprising. Um, Honestly, I knew the reason why I picked it, but it was one of those things where I felt such a shame about it that I just never said it. So when people would ask me why'd you pick Montana, I'd just say, oh, I played football out there for a year, you know. But it's always a lot deeper than that, right? It's always deeper, especially when you are graduating, and this is right out of high school. So you're graduating high school, you're uprooting your life, going from California all the way to a place you've never even thought about going. That's something, man. That's something. So I kind of want to do a story time where I'm just reflecting on why did I choose Montana State Northern in Havre, Montana. So in order to set the groundwork for this, I have to go back to high school, and I graduated high school in 2010. I went to Aquinas High, which is a Catholic private Catholic school in San Bernardino. Did Before getting there, my freshman year was I think 2006. I've never heard of the school before in my life. And my dad was a football coach, and I heard of all the schools, all of them. I'm talking about the ones that people wouldn't even know that I would know. I knew every high school in Rialto, Fontana, um, San Bernardino, like every surrounding area. So when it was told to me that we was going to this private school in San Bernardino, first that did not sound appealing at all. I was like, I don't. That's crazy. What is that? And then when I got there, I was like, oh no, 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 please, please, no. Um, but it was fine. It all turned out to be good. I'm glad I went to that school. Um, but we got to fast forward throughout my high school career to the last year, my senior year, because my senior year, playing football, I had a pretty good year. I was getting the accolades. I didn't get all the accolades and accomplishments that I saw that I wanted, that I sought out to get in the beginning, but it was good enough. I had schools and scouts and teams on my line, and I wasn't. Remember, this is the era Reggie Bush was at USC a couple years prior, so I didn't have Reggie Bush talent, speed, work ethic. I didn't have none of that, so I wasn't a player that was going to like these top schools, these USC, Alabamas. It wasn't happening, but I felt I was, and I think even the scouts I talked to felt like I was, like, pretty good for like the lower level D1 schools. Not gonna name any of them here, but just the schools, probably the WAC conference, or I don't even know if they still call it the WAC, but either lower level D1, probably D1 AA. These are the schools that I was talking to, and I felt very comfortable with it. It was fine. I did not need to go to USC or UCLA. These are the schools everybody wanted to go to, but I was realistic in where I was going to be going. So, where are we at? So, senior year, I'm talking to a few scouts and a few coaches because I had a great year. And, I'm on a few coaches' radars. Some schools are reaching out. And one thing about me when it comes to college, I never thought I was going to be the person that graduates college. Like literally, like as crazy as that sounds, I never once said I'm going to go to college, get a degree, and never. That was never my thing. I didn't know anybody that looked like me that went to college and got the degree. Usually, the people that I knew, they went to college for a year and had that experience, and then they came home and then they started their life. That's literally how I thought mine was gonna go, and I was cool with that. Like it was nothing wrong. These people that that didn't go to college that I grew up with. They were pillars of the community. They were coaches. They were leaders. They were teachers. These were all these people. Well, I don't know if they were teachers. I don't know if I many, but they were coaches. The people that was important in my life were coaches. So most of these people did not finish college. They were just people that went to college, got the experience, and they always said, "Yo, I was only there for a year, but I had the time of my life for that year." So my thing was that I just needed to get to college, get there for a year, experience all the things I need to experience, and then I'll come back to San Bernardino. I'll get me a job, good paying job. I'll start a family. I'll become a coach. That was it, and I loved it. But I did want to get that year. I want to get that year. So as I'm talking to these coaches, it's starting to become realistic. Where I'm like, oh wow, I think I can go to college without paying because my parents was not paying for nothing. We couldn't afford it. But it was becoming realistic. I could probably go to somebody's campus this fall and get my school paid for, play some football for a year, and have the time of my life, and I can come back home and start life. It's kind of funny thinking of it that way, but that's literally how it was. So, I mentioned a few of the lower level D1 schools. There's some not at this point in time, no D1 AA's, but there are a handful of NAIA schools which are um, I don't even know how you explain NAIA schools, but there's some great ones out there. But pretty much that those were the two lanes. It was NAIA, lower level D1 schools. Okay, so here we are. So I am the football season's over. I'm talking to these coaches. I vividly remember talking to one coach at this one school. Man, they were high on me, man. It was a well-known school. It was if they had offered, I would have went. I would have been good there. But I remember, I don't know why, but I remember I was on the phone. I was talking to him in my parents' room, and probably because that time the cell phone chargers that we had were very limited. We probably, if everybody in the house, if all four people in the house had cell phones, then there was probably like two chargers, and one was in my parents' room, and you couldn't remove that one. So that's probably why I was sitting on a bed talking to this coach. But I remember that, and he's asking all these questions. I'm like, yo, I'm about to go to school next year. This is all. He did say something I thought was funny. He was joking, but I don't know. He said, I'm gonna go out there and visit in a month, and if you're at least 6 foot, I'm gonna offer you right on the spot. I was like, yeah, I ain't 6 foot. So I think that was half joke because I wasn't playing receiver. Um, but I say all that to say, me and this coach and probably three other coaches, they were very high on me. We talked all the time, and I was like, yo, out of one of these, I like my chances. Even if you find another player at a different school or whatever, I like my chances to get into one of these schools. However, what I didn't know about the whole recruiting and scouting process, in becoming a student athlete, I really didn't understand the student part of it. So as these scouts would come to the school, it'll be the same thing. They'll meet with me, and it was probably about three other people on the team that they were looking at, and they would meet with us and do the measuring, size us up, all that good stuff in person, and then they'll go about their day, do what they needed to do, and then towards the end of the day, they would meet with the academic counselor. So the first coach, same process. Talked a little bit throughout the phone, came, met with the counselor. Um, and when he leaves, I never hear nothing back from him ever. Like never. Like I'm thinking once he lands back to the city that he's from, he's gonna reach out and we're gonna continue the talks. Nothing. The second coach, because remember, it's about three coaches at these lower level D1 schools. The second coach, all right, relationship. We would talk here and there, but came, visit, did the size up, song and dance, and then afternoon meet with that academic counselor. Days after that, I don't hear anything back. I'm like, man, what is going on? The last one, which I was really excited about, this is the coach that I talked about when I was on the phone with him in my parents' room. They're super, super high. Would have went with that school if they offered. And I'm like, okay, I know he's super excited. So even though these other two schools that I was talking to went away from me, this guy, he's there. So he gets there, boom, we meet. Afternoon, meets with the academic counselor. Then he goes back to where he's from, and I don't hear anything. I don't get no call. I don't get no follow up. It's just cold silence. And I'm like, why did all three of these coaches have the same thing? Why did all of them just ghost me like that? So one of my teammates who was being recruited by that same school he hit me up on game. He was like, look, he said the reason why this coach, I can't speak for the other two coaches, but the reason why this coach pulled back and seemingly went ghost is because your grades are not what it needs to be. I don't know how I didn't put two and two together. I just thought, maybe they visited the other schools in the area because that's what they do. They're not just going to Aquinas. They're going to Cajon. They're going to Arroyo. They're going to everywhere in the Inland Empire. I remember just like, yo, yeah, that makes sense. Now let me tell you why I probably didn't put two and two together. I mentioned that my dad was a coach, right? And when my dad was a coach, I was a little bit younger, but man, I seen some of the best high school players, and I'm talking about like had conversations with these individuals, and their grades were absolutely trash, horrible. Great people, but grades were absolutely trash. But those people went on to get scholarships. So in my mind, I'm thinking, if you're good enough, they're gonna give you a scholarship anyway. I wasn't at that level that they were. They were at a bigger school doing better things, and it just wasn't the same. I wasn't factoring all that stuff in. But yeah, so my teammate tells me, he's like, yo, so that's it. And most likely if this coach pulled out because of your grades, probably the other two coaches that were high on you pulled out for the same reason. So I'm feeling down on myself. I'm like, yo, that was the first time I actually felt like probably depression, and I was aware. I don't even know if depression was. That was the very first time in my young life that I realized every decision that you make has a consequence. Now, my first 2 years of high school, not really trying, not really doing the work, not really, being a good student, didn't really seem to impact me at all. But it did come back to bite 2 years later. And that's when I realized, I was like, that was your decisions that you made. It was nobody else. It was just you not doing what you needed to do. And then that's what happened. So it was probably a little bit of depression knowing that, dang, I had three schools that were solid. They backed out. And it was knowing that it was on me. I didn't do what I needed to do. So at this time, these three D1 schools pull out. There's still a handful of NAIA schools that, not to say grades don't matter, but they'll take a chance on you. They're lower level. There's just more. They'll take the risk, I guess. I don't even know, but I was up front, told them what it was after I knew that my grades were not on the good side. And people might ask, what was the grade GPA? What was the GPA? I finished high school with a 2.2. So at this time, and I only finished with 2.2 because that last semester, I probably got all A's and it bumped it up to a 2.2. But by the time the scouts are coming to the school, maybe a 2.0, maybe. Hopefully it was a 2.0. Not a good look. So I have the NAIA schools, and then one school comes in, and I'll actually say this school, Northern Colorado. There was a scout. Man, I wish I knew this dude's name because he was a game changer for me. But it was a scout from Northern Colorado who got his hands on my film, and it looked like a good fit to me. It made sense. I was like, okay, I'm probably not going D1, but D1 AA, Northern Colorado. I think I seen a game on TV. That's good enough for me. So we began talking like almost every day. I could tell we're building a rapport, and it's an honest rapport. We're actually having real conversations. And I remember him telling me like, hey, I'm coming out to the area. I'm going to visit, your school and a couple other schools in the area. We'd love to chat and stop by. I was like, cool, let's do it. Now, I will say when I heard he was coming, I did feel a little like, it's about to happen again. Because it felt good. It felt like I finally had something. And then as soon as he gets there, he's going to meet with the counselor, and it'll be revealed that my GPA is not worth taking a chance on. So fast forward probably like a couple weeks out, he goes to the school, and we do the song and dance. We meet, size me up, all that good stuff. And then he's in the academic counselor's office, and I would imagine they're talking about grades. I wasn't present at none of these conversations with the counselor. And I knew right then and there, I was like, yeah, probably never hear from this guy again, which sucked because even if football didn't work out, he was just a solid dude. He was pretty cool. You could just tell that he would have been a good mentor if I was looking for a mentor at that time. But I was like, I'll probably never hear from this guy. That was the pattern. These coaches would come, they would see what the grades look like, and then they would just, they're out. They'll bolt. They ghost me, right? So I remember this guy in particular. After he's done, he gives me a call, and I remember I'm in class. Might have been a call or a text, but seemingly just add, like, give me a call whenever you can. Yeah, that's what it was. It was a text. He said, give me a call because I was in class. Step outside, give him a call, and he said, hey, I'm still at the school. I'm sitting in the bleachers. If you want to come, if you got some time, it'd be about 5-10 minutes. Just come tap in with me. And I was like, cool. Now I'm feeling super excited because I was like, yo, this is the first coach that went to go see the grades and had the conversation, and now he's actually telling me, he's saying, hey, he wants to continue the conversation. So I'm feeling hopeful, but I'm also reading between the lines. 5 to 10 minutes. What you gonna tell me in 5 to 10 minutes? You know, so I'm thinking about it, but it's more than what I got from the other three coaches that showed up. So I go to the football field. Those bleachers was the most uncomfortable bleachers in my life. It was the worst. But when I go up, he's literally there at the bleachers, sitting by himself, kind of toward. And I remember this. Some of these things. It's gonna be some things in your life conversation that you never forget. You could replay them. You could, like, you just know. It feels like it just happened yesterday. It's things I can't even remember that I said a week ago. But this conversation, I remember every bit of it because it meant so much to me. So I go up to the bleachers. He's sitting there, and I sit right next to him, and small talk. But I remember he jumps in. He's like, "Yeah, man, I connected with the counselor, and I seen the GPA." And I remember him asking me straight up. He said, like, what happened? Why? What's up with your grades? And he asked in such a sincere way that I couldn't lie to the guy. He just asked, like, he seen beyond me being a football player. He chose not to ghost me. He literally was asking from like a genuine place, like, and I felt that. He was like, what happened? Like, why was it just, were you not getting it? Were you just not trying? Like, he was trying to get an understanding, like, legit, and I wanted to provide that because I appreciated him even following up. So I didn't lie to him, man. I was gonna lie. What I was lying to everybody else saying, teachers didn't like me. That was everybody. They liked me. It wasn't that. I was just lazy. Um, what it was is the first 2 years I didn't know how to manage playing football, and it was like a snap. You go from playing Pop Warner, then in high school, it kind of is like a business because especially in that school we took football very serious. So it a lot of times felt like football was number one and then school second. That's not how it should be. Student athlete, student got to come first. But in my mind, athlete was first, and then the student stuff, you'll work yourself out. If you couple that with the point that the people that I knew that I grew up with, these great football players, they kind of treated it the same. It was football first, got the scholarship, and then coaches worked around their academics. So it was just all of it. And I'm telling them, like, first 2 years I just didn't know how to manage it. But as you can see, my junior year I started to pick it up, and my senior year I'm on track to finish with a 2.2. No, I didn't say that, but I was pretty much trying to tell them, like, the first 2 years being young, I didn't know. It was like I felt like a fish out of water. It's like manage all these classes, manage all the emotions of being a young kid, manage being a football player, and all the pressure that comes with that. And I just did not do it. Side note, that's why I really, really, really have respect for those that do it the right way. Like, for those that go to college and do it the right way, for those who go from that, little league on to high school. Of course, you got to have a good foundation and all that good stuff. But when I tell you, for me, it was absolutely hard. I did not manage it well. I started to figure it out probably by my junior year. And then things got a little bit better with my grades. But this man just wanted to know, and he understood that. Now, I remember him telling me, like, yo, I understand. I was in a similar boat, and he played baseball. He didn't play football, but he was a scout for football. But he's telling me, like, same thing, man. When I was in school, it had nothing to do with, me being an idiot, or don't have anything to do with you being an idiot or anything like that. But look at me. I went off to college, got a degree. I'm coaching. I got a good life. So it was one of those things where he probably seen himself in me. And again, up until this point, we had multiple conversations. So from a character standpoint, he knows me. Like we had some real conversations up until this point. So I think he felt a little invested to, not only see what happened, but he also felt invested to tell me, hey, the future is bright if you can, you know, continue the trend. You've been getting better the last 2 years. You can go to college. You can do all the things you need to do because I did it. So we're having a conversation. While we're having this real conversation, that's why I remember it. It was the first real adult conversation that I had with a person where I had to take accountability. And I didn't feel, he didn't shame me. He was just like, yo, I want to help you get to the goal that you want to get. So while he's saying this, I'm getting excited. Like, oh, I think he might offer me a scholarship at the school. That didn't happen. He did not offer a scholarship. But what he did say is, look, I can't offer you the scholarship because first you would be ineligible and that would be a waste of scholarship. We're not the big universities. We can't be wasting scholarships on people that can't play, or we don't know if they're even going to pan out because they might have a hard time adjusting to the college system and classes and all that good stuff. But what he said was, what I want you to do is go to a JC, pick any of the JCs in the area, a junior college, and get your grades right for a semester, keep yourself in shape. Those are the two things. That's it. You don't even got to play football. Just get your grades right, keep yourself in shape. I will literally come back and offer you a scholarship for the spring in Northern Colorado, or I'll give you a preferred walk-on for the spring. And it sounded good. I ain't gonna lie. Anybody would be hearing that and be like, okay, that sounds like a good deal. Man, when I tell you my anxiety was so high. It was a lot of emotions, man. I felt good to have a real conversation. I didn't appreciate how good that conversation was until years later. But in that moment, and I could remember like it was yesterday, I felt a little bit more depression. I'm like, dang, man, I had a good opportunity. It was the work that I did or didn't do that ruined it for me. The reality of me going to a good school was totally down the window at this point. And I got my hopes up. It was like one of those things of expectations, and it was like, this is not gonna happen like you imagined it to happen. So it was a reality that set in where it was like I thanked him, and I think he probably left thinking, okay, this man's gonna go to a JC, he's gonna get his grades right. We are going to bring him on in the spring and all of that good stuff. And that's probably what he thought. But in my mind, I said that's not gonna happen. You probably asked like, why? That seems like a good deal. Now, I told y'all most people would ask like, why did you make the decision to go to Montana State University Northern? And I said the reason why I made the decision was not based on something I was proud of. It's probably a little embarrassing, but in my brain when it came to light that I was not getting the scholarship and I probably wasn't going to any D1, no D1 AA, I said, wow, I think I'm really just going to be going to a junior college. I'm going to be going to a junior college. And the reason why that gave me anxiety is because I went to a small school, right? When I think I had maybe about 50 kids in my class, my senior class. So this isn't one of those big schools where they just, during graduation, where they just read your name and you run across stage. This is one of those schools where you can take your time because there's only 50 kids going across stage. So they're saying your name and then they're announcing where you're going to college. In all, once they say your name and when you walk across stage, it's probably a total of 5 to 10 seconds. It's probably 5 seconds, not even 10. Derek Radden will be attending blank this fall. That's it, 5 seconds. I had so much anxiety about that announcement because it did not feel right for them to say Derek Radden attending junior college this fall. I literally was like, there's no way. There's no way I could let that be for me because it's embarrassing. That's how I felt. I was like, it'd be embarrassing. What will people say about me? Like, they're going to say I didn't live up to anything. They're going to make fun of me. The anxiety of a 5-second announcement at a graduation that people are going to forget 5 seconds later literally weighed on me. So I said, I can't take this man up on his offer. That was a very good offer because I didn't want them to announce that I'm going to a junior college. So what I did was I looked at the other schools that were looking at me. There was no, it was two NAIA schools, probably none that you've ever heard of. One of them, I cannot remember the name of it, but the second one was Montana State University Northern. That one, I only went with that school because they had a university on it at Montana State, and it sounded like a legit school, and it is a legit school. Like it's legit. Uh, it's a real school. I don't want to say it like that, but it sounded like a school where I was like, oh, really cool. I only picked it so when they say my name for those 5 seconds as I'm walking across stage, they'll say Derek Radden attending Montana State University, and I probably even left off the Northern. I probably just told them it was Montana State University, and so they just said Montana State University, and literally that's what it was. I was like, okay, cool, I did it, I did it. Now that's the path I chose. Super, super embarrassing. But I'll tell you something that happened. I remember leading up to it, I had anxiety about the choice I was making and why I was making it. And even at that young age, I was like, this don't feel right. But I do remember the day of, I'm walking across stage, they announce it. And I remember sitting in my seat, feeling this thing like, yo, I think that might be more costly than you could ever imagine. I remember feeling that like it was just 5 seconds, but this might be something that's way more costly, and it might impact you more than you could ever imagine. And I remember feeling that, and I was like, well, the people are congratulating me for going to the school. They're saying good job. They saying I did it. They said I knew you was gonna go somewhere, and I felt validated. I couldn't imagine if they said, Valley College or something like that, if they was gonna say the same thing, even though that's a great school too. Um, I just couldn't fathom it. So although I felt those internal, like, yo, that was probably a bad move to do a decision off of what people are gonna think or what they're not gonna think. Um, Even though I felt like that, it also felt kind of validated because people told me good job for going to a university. Um, So that's why I picked Montana State. Now, getting to Montana State, remember I told you I never had this grand vision of graduating from school. That was never my thing. Again, I just wanted to go out there, turn up, have the time of my life for a year, and I'm gonna come back. None of that ever happened. Montana State Northern was it was nothing to do out there. It was very cold. I had no money. I didn't even like alcohol. I tried drinking for the first time. It was horrible. I didn't even have the whole experience. I was trying to make the most of it. I was like, all right, cool. I'm away from home. Let me do my thing. It didn't work out in that way. So I was only there for a year, but I met some really cool people. And again, hopefully the people I was closest with, I can bring them on a pod and talk about that dynamic year there because it was pretty fun. But the irony of it, though, I was there for about a year, never played. I was ineligible. I couldn't play there either. So I was on the scout team and, helped running the offense and all that good stuff. And then surprisingly went back for the spring semester where things are starting to pick up. But then again, in my mindset, I'm not graduating. So I ended up going back home. And when I went back home, I remember my dad, he said, if you're gonna be in my house, you either gotta be in school or you gotta be working. So I wasn't in school no more, so I had to get a job. And then that's when the jobs I worked is a story in and of itself, and I think all of them shaped me to be here. But the funny part of the irony of it, I made that decision to pick that school based off what people would say, and them thinking, okay, Derek is somebody. He's going to college. Probably about a year after that decision, I found myself working at a casino as a housekeeper. And as a housekeeper, you're that person that cleans the bathrooms, you're cleaning the back house. If you are watching this and you work with me at San Manuel, because that's where I was at, yo, tap in because we had some times there. But back of house, and you had to clear. You had like zones where you had to get the trash and cups from. I remember one time I was this lady, man. I was in this zone, probably zone 6, if that is the zone. I was in zone 6, and this lady was at the casino every day, all day. This particular day, she was at this machine just hitting it, hitting a little button. And her cups were just stacking up. Again, she's there probably 24 hours, and cups are just stacking. People are calling like, "Hey, can you bring the housekeeper in and clean this mess up?" So I went a couple times trying to maneuver, get in there, and I just had to. And I was telling my supervisor at the time, I was like, "Yo, I can't get the trash because she's blocking it. I can't. I don't want to knock their lady over." Then he said, "You just got to go in there and get it. You got to go." So I remember kind of reaching in, getting it, and she blew smoke right in my face. And she literally yelled, she said, "Get out of here. Every time you come around, I lose money. You're bad luck." And I was like, "Ooh, yikes." That job was not for the weak. But while I'm working at that job, I ended up seeing people that I went to high school with. And while I was so busy trying to, a year earlier, trying to get them to think that I'm doing something with my life, they actually see me working this job at the casino, where I met some amazing people. But they see me working this job, and the story that I wanted to avoid in high school became the story legit. Like, he's not only is he not in college, but he's a janitor at a casino. And yeah, I didn't think I people would say, I remember, oh man, yeah. Let me not go there. I remember people saying like, I didn't see that for his future, but yo, what happened to him? That's sad. So the thing that I tried to avoid, it ended up coming to life anyway. People, I wanted people to see me at a certain light, at a certain upper echelon or whatever, and it didn't happen. It didn't happen. So I think the feelings that I had during graduation was absolutely spot on. It was something that was going to come back and haunt. And then honestly, it was going to be something that I struggle with, this whole thing of trying to get people to see me a certain way. Probably why it took me so long to do this pod, because we care so much. What are people going to think? I got this image to uphold. But throughout the years, you realize that, man, you're never going to be good enough, and you're never going to be bad enough. It's just going to be, what life do you want to live? Do you want to work that job? Do you want to go to college? Do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? And I would say over the last few years, I've been comfortable with it, comfortable enough to take a step out there, and also comfortable enough to really connect with people who are in similar situations and telling them my story. Because just like that scout told me when we were in the bleachers, he kind of foreshadowed and seen himself in me and said, "Hey, just because this is what your GPA is today, don't mean you can't go to college and all that good stuff." Every time I go to a high school or a college, and when I worked at the Raiders, a lot of times we would do these career fairs, and people would ask, like, what do I do? What's my next step? And it will always come up about GPA for some reason. And I would always tell them, like, hey, it doesn't matter about where you are now. It's about where you can go. So I don't mind sharing my story of how I got to where I am. It definitely wasn't a linear process. It was veering off a little bit. But a lot of the times when I veered off is because I've got in my head about what people would think and what they would say. And it wasn't worth it. It never was really worth it. So, yeah. But one good thing that came out of Montana, me going there, is I met some cool people. And again, like I said, I want to bring them on the pod. And yeah, we're going to make that happen. Man, that's story time with me. I like telling these little stories. It was pretty cool. But if anybody ever wondered why I ended up, or how I ended up in Montana, or why, that is the true story. It was 5 seconds. It was an announcement at graduation that I didn't want. I didn't want people to think that I wasn't going to a real college. And yeah, there you have it. Cool. Let me know if you ever did some stuff like that, where you just made a decision that was just too irrational, when you probably should have thought about it. And yeah, you probably would have chose a different path had you really thought about it. I will say, even when you do choose the wrong path, though, God is funny in that way, where he literally makes everything work. So it didn't matter if it was Montana, working at the casino, or working wherever I worked, the schools I went to, all of it shaped me and gave me the personality. It gave me the ability to connect with people of all walks of life. It gave me the ability to walk in my authentic skin. So it all worked. In my mind, it should have worked 10 years ago, but better yet, it's happening while I'm 33. So, it works. But yeah, I'm gonna stop the video here, but I really do appreciate y'all tapping in. It's been fun. I love doing these little videos and sharing bits and pieces of things I got going on. Hope to hear from y'all, and yeah, look out for new content. But y'all be good, be easy. It's your boy Derek Devon.
Initially awkward. Take one.